We will get started. Thank you for those attending in person. Thank you for those online. And welcome to today's Fireside Chat. And for those not in the room, you will see we have a mock fireside around our camera for the online version. We were hoping at one point to do this outside and have it more of a fireside feel, but we weren't sure that we could get the virtual portion of this done properly. Then we wanted to set up a campfire in here, and then the fire station. That wasn't great. So where we ended up with is this fireside chat with you here today, and I'm pleased to be with Dr. Lindsay Alston, our chief of staff, and the board chair, Byrch. And for those that haven't attended before, the whole purpose, the intention behind a fireside chat is it is a chat. It is a dialogue with the community. We have lots of opportunities. In terms of formal meetings, this is our chance to reach out to the community in an informal way to share news, our annual review, and have an opportunity for questions. So there will be, for people online, please feel free to put questions in the group chat, and we will be able to see those at the end of each section of the presentation. We'll have an eye on that. For those in the room, if you have a question, please raise your hand, and we'll do it the good old-fashioned way, hand raising. So that's great. We've come with some slides because there's some information, there's some visuals we want to share, but we want to keep it informal. We promise we won't overload with PowerPoint, and we're respectful of your time as well. We're committed to finishing at 6. It looks like a beautiful evening tonight, so we'll make sure that people can get out on time. So today's our first. This is our dual audience fireside chat, and thank you again for being a part of it. So before I go on, I would like to do a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that we are situated on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe Nation. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples of this region, specifically the Tri-Council First Nations comprised of Osalake First Nation, the Chippewas of Randall First Nation, and the Chippewas of Georgina Island. We also acknowledge the Nuclear Point First Nation, the Wata Mohawks, and the Georgian Bay and Moon River Métis Councils. It should also be noted that the Wendat and the Haudenosaunee nations have walked on this territory. We offer this land acknowledgement in recognition of the history of colonial practices that have harmed Indigenous people for generations, and this serves as our commitment personally and as an organization to truth and reconciliation. So with that, it is my pleasure to hand it over to Ligaya.
Thanks very much, Carmine. I'm going to use these notes that were brought together for me. So thank you very much. Thank you for being part of the conversation tonight. We have used our strategic plan to help guide our conversation this evening, and our strategic plan is made up of 3 pillars. We are connected, we are soldiers, and we adapt and advance. I'm going to speak to the pillar we adapt and we advance. I'll start with a little background on the number of beds and how these numbers have been indicative of the rapidly growing community. So as you can see on our screen, we went from 181 beds in 2021 to 213 beds in 22-23. These increases have really been at the request of the province due to the surge requirements during the pandemic, but also as a response to our rapidly growing community. The growth in our facility has come from the reopening of a previously decommissioned patient care area, as well as utilizing beds in off-site areas, Champlain Manor and Lake Simcoe Retirement Home. So we manage these beds off-site because we don't actually have the physical space here at the hospital. This visual here is also illustrating our growth and how the pace of growth is much larger than we can keep up with or have predicted. The dashed lines that you see represent future growth requirements in the bed requirements. The red line indicates our maximum physical capacity. The thicker purple line indicates the actual growth. And so as you can see, we're already above the red line. And we continue to outpace our projected growth, further highlighting the urgency and the need for planning of a new future hospital. Recently published data by the OHA, the Ontario Hospital Association, also indicates that we have the highest occupancy in the province, higher than all medium and large size hospitals in the province of Ontario. And this reflects in increased healthcare demands in our community and indicates our ability to respond to those growing needs. So we continue to see growth outpace the province into the foreseeable future. According to the most recent census, Orillia and surrounding areas are experiencing growth greater than the provincial average and greater than some of the communities, particularly those surrounding us. And more people equates a greater demand for service. What we do know is our hospital cannot keep up with this demand. So what do we do about this? How do we adapt and advance? In January of this year, we launched our Start Today, Serve Tomorrow public awareness campaign to draw attention to this matter and to draw attention to the urgency for the need to move forward with a future plan. Our goal to obtain approval and a planning grant for this project is well underway, but we need approval in order to create that more detailed plan. To date, we haven't received approval, but we have received, including today, encouraging positive dialogue with the ministry. And so we'll continue to work with the ministry to achieve this milestone. The campaign did, however, meet its primary goal of elevating awareness, not only provincially, but also in the local community. We can see some measurable statistics from the campaign, and you can see those on the screen. The letter writing campaign was a great success with more than 1,400 people adding their signature to letters that went directly to Health Minister Sylvia Jones and College and Universities Minister Jill Dunlop. On the screen, you'll also see some of the key messages that we focused on during this campaign, including the occupancy rate of 141% and parts of our infrastructure being over 100 years old. I want to thank everyone who was able to respond to this PR campaign and their active engagement and their support through these efforts. Working towards the construction of a new hospital isn't the only way we're adapting and advancing. We have to keep moving forward with our existing infrastructure, and I want to provide you with a few examples. Anyone who was driving by our hospital in the last few weeks might have noticed a large crane, as you can see in the picture there, lifting materials into the hospital. And one of those key items that was delivered was a brand new state-of-the-art MRI. It weighs about 9,000 pounds and provides incredibly detailed imagery, which can better serve the people of our community more so than the 2007 unit that's going to be replaced. Again, I want to thank the community at large for their donations in making this happen, and the OSMH Foundation for their contributions. Installation is well underway, and we hope to see that new machine active by the end of this summer. Some of the other initiatives that are underway is eNautilus, which is a multi-year project that will enhance the different components of our electronic health record system, improving the way we capture, access, and share patient information. We're doing this as part of a group of hospitals that share the same information system. And one initiative that patients will be able to see an immediate change in is the MyChart portal. Once this is up and running, it will provide patients with 24/7 access to their own patient information free of charge. So that's it for my part of the presentation. If anyone has any questions at this time, I can take them, or we can wait till the end.
You can take them now. We're just checking to see if there's any questions online.
Maybe you said, what does an MRI machine cost? Yes.
So we have our director of diagnostic imaging here, okay?
It was 1.7.
Yeah.
It's not gonna change for sure, but it provides opportunity for expanded scope of imaging for the community here, and also some services that we weren't able to provide before. And it's a larger bore, which means that patients who have claustrophobia can be accommodated more easily in this large opening. It's a big win for our community.
I'm curious, do you buy it or do you lease something like a piece of equipment like that?
We have our CFO. There you go. Good question.
So we do purchase this equipment. All of our equipment, with a few exceptions, is purchased. So we maintain a 10-year rolling forecast for foundation and the community from a fundraising perspective. But items of this nature, we do purchase it right.
Possible to have an understanding and ability to, with proper service contracts, maintenance contracts, to extend the life of equipment well beyond its original intention. So we are able to get good value out of purchasing beyond leasing.
I wanted to ask how much of that 1.7 million was funded by the government? Zero, right? Close to zero.
It's a nuanced conversation. So we as an organization recognize that we have to self-fund capital. But appreciate that the vast majority of our operating budget is government funded. So I think it would be, it wouldn't be appropriate to say that there's no government support in the purchase of our capital.
Right. But the point is, this community funded 1.7 million for an MRI, and I think that message really is lost on most people. They don't realize what they've got. It's just really too bad.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great point, and we also saw a transformative gift from the Swinimer family.
Yeah.
With the MRI as well, $500,000, bring us over the top, so to speak, in terms of our fundraising. So it is as many of our equipment is, it's a shared responsibility between the foundation, our community, hospital reserve, and really bringing it all together for some of these really important big ticket items.
Thank you. I too will use notes. So I am speaking on behalf of the We Are Soldiers pillar. I myself am the chief of staff here, which some of you may know and some of you may not. So I oversee the credentialed staff, which is the physicians, midwives, dentists, nurse practitioners, some of those who work at OSMH. There's about 270 credentialed staff in total, about 140 of them are active and associate. And so with that in mind, we have experienced HR pressures in the credentialed staff sphere, just like every other realm of healthcare. We look to various programs as future opportunities to assist us with recruitment. And one of the programs we're very proud of here is our medical training program. So this slide is sort of highlighting, some of the medical trainees that we've had come through our center. I would like to pinpoint the ones that say elective rotations, so not to put one group over another, but those who come on elective rotations have chosen to come to Aurelia. Either they've heard great feedback about our preceptors, our sites, our community, or all of the above, and have chosen to come and do some rotations with us. So we in the past have had a good number of placements from international graduates. Through the pandemic, there was a pause on international graduates, not instituted by us, but instituted by the medical education deans in Ontario. And that restriction was lifted in the winter this year. And so we have already seen an influx of international trainees looking to do rotations. And often these trainees are actually Canadian residents who've gone abroad to do medical education. So we look forward to that, and just to highlight, we do quite a bit of teaching at our site. We'll go to the next slide instead. So come for the job and stay for the team. This is obviously one of our mottos when you're working in healthcare. Your team is super important. And so HR has developed this
this motto, and we've certainly liaised quite a bit with our HR department. We work closely with them. We've developed, standardized recruitment processes, standardized recruitment tactics, to help support not only our credentialed staff, but our department chiefs in the ever-changing landscape of physician recruitment. So we are very grateful to all of the HR department for their support. Just looking at the numbers, we have about 11 open vacancies for specialty rotation or for specialty positions at OSMH. It seems like a lot, but we're actually better situated than many of our regional partners. Since, writing this slide a few weeks ago, we hired one new obstetrician, so we will welcome them in the fall. We hired a psychiatrist. We are extremely excited. These are hard to fill positions and critical team members for our programs. So it's become obvious in the last couple of years that our old strategy of placing an ad in a journal and waiting for applicants to apply is not enough. We have investigated multiple alternative pathways to advertise our jobs, but also to advertise our community. We have had success with exposure at multiple recruitment events. The top sort of picture is like a virtual job fair for obstetricians. That was an interesting event to attend, but it gets your name out there in the more digital world where you're trying to recruit these, younger residents and junior physicians. So we have had some success with that, actually. We have had some recent successful recruitments. I mentioned obstetrics. It's not psychology, but psychiatry and geriatrics. We've had some success in those fields. Those are extremely hard to fill positions. So we're quite proud of our ability to showcase our community and be successful. We have, fortunately, the College of Physicians and Surgeons has recently removed restriction on internationally trained graduates. This has been sort of a long-awaited change, and it's opened up pathways to basically American, but also other international trained graduates. We have had some success in focusing efforts at advertising in the United States, in the UK, in Australia. There's a whole slew of candidates out there that the door has opened to, and so we look forward to continuing on with those avenues. We have worked closely with the Aurelia Area Recruitment and Retention Physician Recruitment and Retention Committee, and some of you sit on that committee here. OSMH and the committee and our HR department have really worked collaboratively in the last year. We have streamlined a lot of processes. We have supported each other. Physician recruitment is hard in specialty medicine. It's super hard in family medicine. They have successfully recruited 3 family physicians to our community. They have 4, high potential candidates for 2024, and we are very happy to support that activity. That is the overall benefit to our community health. As I mentioned, the Aurelia Area Physician Recruitment and Retention Committee has done their own sort of situational analysis. They think there are about 12 family physicians needed in the next couple of years. That's not taking into account any new retirements. So we certainly have a big task ahead of us. As I mentioned, we have already 11 specialist vacancies as well, but I think we have made good headway in the last year. So I've spoken to the physician angle on our hospital, but we are actually much more than that. I'd like to speak briefly about a few other initiatives that help define who we are as an organization. We have stepped up our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion with a robust committee that helps sort of guide our efforts to embrace all cultures and beliefs. Our relationship with the Chippewa of Rama First Nations is strong. That was evident when the Chief and Council were here just recently to celebrate National Indigenous Peoples Day, and previously they helped officially open our 2 new mental health treatment rooms in the emergency department that they actually helped support financially. So we were very grateful for that connection. In addition to our DEI committee, we're also a very active LGBTQ committee. The committee has helped us become leaders in providing care to the LGBTQ community, and we are seen as a welcoming and safe environment. Back in June, I think that's you, Ligaya, we kicked off Pride Month with the raising of our newly designed flag, or not our newly designed, but the newly designed flag at the west entrance of the hospital. So our commitment to wellness is equally important to the OSMH team members, and we meet that commitment in several ways. We host gratitude events for the year, whether it's a barbecue in the courtyard, long service awards, or peer nominated awards. We do recognize the achievements of our staff. We also host wellness fairs, and we opened up a wellness room on the 4th floor, quite popular place. And it's just an opportunity or a place for staff to relax and unwind for a few moments in a busy shift. Additionally, we offer courses in mental health first aid training and compassion fatigue training, as well as safety huddles, which have all been well utilized amongst our team and appreciated. With that, I'm going to hand it back to the guy who doesn't need any speaking notes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Alston, and we just checked in, we don't have any questions online, but if there are any questions at this point in the group, you're not quite off the hook yet.
No,
Ask for questions.
You're ready, yeah. Yeah. Happy to
Okay,
answer them.
yes.
I'm curious, retired teachers teach part-time. Do retired physicians, is that a pool of?
Well, that. No, it's what happens, the people morph into they, a lot of them have software offices and now they work at hospitalists or in Byrch. Only.
So they are a pool
Yeah.
that work for so many hours, so many years, but they don't retire 100%. They
Not
are.
usually, they just fade away.
No, we do have quite an active community that recently retired or physicians scaling back the practice. And in fact, we've had some significant contributions from those individuals. So absolutely, if there's a notice about retirement, we really try not to have that be true. And we try to kind of pull them back into some other work that, might be better hours or less, of a full-time commitment.
I do want to acknowledge that. For a retired physician, some frankly are timeless and never seem to retire. Others come back in new forms and do voluntary work. Do that very important, necessary voluntary work. So we do value all years, all vintages of physicians, whether we recruit trainees to those that have served this community and this organization for very important.
And I guess one more question about. Let's say there is a doctor in Germany right now who wants to come. What's the process? What's the timeline to get? I forget he's qualified to get him into a hospital in Ontario. Obviously, it doesn't happen overnight, and there's some hoops I would imagine you have to.
Yeah, so even for the, I did comment on the CPSO reducing restrictions on internationally trained graduates. Those are only from very specific jurisdictions. So the United States being one, Australia for some. The process is still not short. If your credentials are all recognized as being equivalent, you're still looking at a review from the college to make sure that the credentials are all equivalent. And you're still looking at about maybe a 6 to 9 month time frame, depending on what's identified by the College of Physicians and Surgeons. And then that doesn't take into account if any immigration support is needed. So for many of the candidates that we have come across, these are Canadian citizens who went abroad to do training, stayed abroad because some of the restrictions were so onerous, and then have now said, now is the time to come back. We have seen a reduction in restrictions. It's a bit easier to get through the licensing process. And now they're trying to come back. So they don't have that immigration component. If there's an immigration component, it adds a bit more time, like in the 12 to even 18 month time frame.
Well, thanks for the question. I want to thank the guy at Lindsay for the presentation. This is an inside view of areas that matter to our community. Oh, yeah. You got a question, okay?
Yes, so as a recent patient, I received excellent medical care and support, but appreciate the fiscal challenges of our current facility. Our province is facing extraordinary funding requests for a new hospital facility here in Muskoka and across the province. If not all of these requests are possible, does the OSMH board have a plan B, other than the plan for a new hospital on a new site, to continue to provide a brilliant area with our expanding acute care hospital needs?
So great question going back to future hospitals. So the question is how our province has a long list of projects and construction is quite expensive. That's the reality we face. And in doing so, what we've been able to do as an organization is go back to our original plan. And we did have a very fulsome, incredibly extensive review of all the options. And we were able to review that recently in light of that and identify opportunities of how we can make it easier for the government to fund a new hospital. We recognize that building on this site, not only would it take much longer, it would lead to a less effective and more expensive hospital. For those that do home renovations, you know, fixing up your own is often a lot more expensive than starting from scratch. So we've reviewed all those options. We do have a strategy in place to work with the government to make sure that we are being absolutely fiscally responsible. And the great news and the feedback we're hearing from the ministry, from the elected officials, is not so much whether or not the need is there, it's just a matter of working through the process. That is the critical issue where we have so much need. We have to make sure that we are ready. We have to make sure that we have all our ducks in a row. And quite honestly, we have not heard a response from the government saying we need to consider it when we meet. They're encouraging us forward. It's a matter of making sure that we have all the necessary elements, and it's in everyone's best interest that we, as taxpayers, are doing the most fiscally responsible way of building a new hospital. So all those considerations are there. So thank the individual for the question, and that's the way the planning works in terms of the dialogue with the government. So we'll stay connected with our government partners and seeing where it's quite a long process. The new hospital does not happen overnight, and we'll continue to work with them. Yes.
Hi, good evening. My name is Joy Webster. Sorry, I'm late. I just came up 11 minutes.
Oh,
That's all I need to say. I live in Clay. I live in Simcoe County, Clay and Mandarin. So just so that you know, we have family that live in Aurelia. We've had babies born at this hospital. We've seen, unfortunately, family pass at this hospital. We love your hospital. If I'm in Minden, it's not a 911 call. I will come here. I have a cottage in a Halliburton house. I won't go to Bracebridge. I won't go to Lindsay. Respectfully, you know our plea. We had full staff until the end of September. We're trying to reopen. There's 5,000 of us saying please reopen. The government, unfortunately, just so that you know, Sylvia Jones, the deputy premier, said that the board, this is why I'm here tonight, is to say your board is so vital to your hospital. Because it's the board's responsibility, which one opened, which one closed. There is no now hospital on the 35 corridor from Lindsay right up on this. We had a new OPP station, new fire station, new paramedic station. Orange area was not intrusive to any residences. Great landing site, the story goes on. We are ground zero. Rural Ontario, I am grateful. They've done right for you. I will be coming here, God bless us, if something were to happen. We've been in the area for 70 years with my husband, 43 in the Halliburton Highlands for my family. So I'm just saying, unfortunately, you may see some more of us from that area come here, and we respect your work. This hospital is awesome.
Well,
So
thank you very much. And what you're touching on is an incredibly complex scenario in terms of hospital systems and some of the changes happening in the region. So I acknowledge that there's some difficult choices being made for the purpose of this hospital and sort of tie that in together. we didn't share all our slides. We could have inundated you with a lot of detail, but one of the slides we have is our reach into the communities. And 30% of our emergency department visits are not traditionally from our catchment areas. So, and that includes Aurelia, Orem, Medonte, and we include part of Muskoka in our catchment area as well. So, and some of the other townships around the First Nation.
So we're, excuse me, we're further,
Oh,
we're across the 503, which is 20 minutes of blank air,
Yeah.
and getting the cell phone out there. Norland and up, Norland and down. And I can show you. Obviously, paramedics call it the Minden protocol,
okay.
because they're going to have to bend their practice. And I have the quote right on me of how they're getting people around because of the closure of that hospital.
I appreciate that, and
I'll stop advocating, but that's, I'm sorry.
I sense your passion, and I.
It's 12 weeks of advocating, so I apologize.
No, that's okay. The salient point, I think, for our group, and I want to extend, we want to bring this conversation here to celebrate the year. It's been a challenging year, but a year full of successes. And I want to acknowledge both from the question as well from the comments that I've talked to many patients that have driven by numerous hospitals from Toronto to come here for service. It's and it's a double-edged sword because it's more work for already taxed staff, credentialed staff and volunteers, but it's a total compliment to the commitment of the team, and I want to acknowledge that. Thank you for sharing that. Do you have another question?
This question is probably for Dr. Alston, but Carmen can answer as well. Have the staff been able to recover from the exceptional demands faced during COVID? My personal thanks to them for all they have done in the community.
I think that is a complicated answer. I think that the after effects of COVID, we're still managing amongst physicians, but I think also prevalent throughout all areas of healthcare. Burnout rates are high, and we hear that, and I think that's why we speak to some of the wellness initiatives that the organization has embarked upon. Those wellness initiatives actually extended credentialed staff, which isn't always, credentialed staff aren't always lumped in with all the other staff or always have access to the same initiatives that might exist for other staff. So we're very fortunate that OSMH does promote that sort of inclusivity. So I would say that the focus has changed for all staff, away from a pandemic focus and into service recovery, ramp up, focus on quality. But I think there is still a certain amount of fatigue, and that it just exists. And I think the best that we can do is to try to support our staff and recognize that fatigue exists and do what we can to improve the work culture. But I think that is prevalent everywhere.
Fantastic answer. I couldn't agree more, and I'll add to it by saying that I'm not sure this is actually public yet, but it will soon be. We are launching a new peer support program for staff support. For that very reason, we haven't stopped supporting our teams through difficult times because circumstances they were difficult during the pandemic. Some linger, some there's new challenges. So we've made that commitment as part of our strategy, and Lindsay spoke to it as well. So I just want to put that down. All right, it's just been up today. Okay, check the press release with a great partnership with Gillette Health Services. We are launching a peer support program in collaboration with them. So, okay, great questions. Thank you so much for everyone sharing those. I'm going to go on to we talked about our people strategy. We talked about how we adapt and advance, and we have a whole series of exciting news stories with how we work together as a team, as a community. We are one community, that is our vision. We are one community, and what is unique, and I must have presented this at least many dozens of times, and it inspires me every time. When I look at our shared purpose, we are a community that's committed to improving health and wellness. That's different than just treating illness. It's about community health. And that takes us outside of our usual place of a acute care facility. It brings us to the table with our partners to work together collaboratively as a team. So the major initiative around this and something that the hospital has embraced is the concept of Ontario Health Teams. That is coming together of, we call it 12 anchor partners or 12 decision-making partners with over 30 affiliates, other community agencies. So it's hospitals, primary care, home and community care, community support agencies, municipalities, it's everyone that come together that look at how we can provide and improve the health and well-being of our community. And we serve our immediate geographic area. It's a population of approximately 90,000 people, but again, as we mentioned before, we do welcome and embrace those that are coming in from the region as well. And what we've done as a hospital, it's as a collective, we've come together and strategized. What are the things that we need to do as a full community to improve the overall population health? One of the things we've identified, for example, is we know that navigating care, especially if you have complicated needs, is very difficult. So one of our goals is to simplify the process, have a single entry point, have navigators that guide you through it, so you're not left or your caregiver is not left making those difficult navigation steps. We have done that in several populations for our seniors, for patients requiring palliation, and next we're looking at the mental health and addictions population to see how we can better streamline care. We talked a lot about health human. We'll go back one. Sorry. We've talked a lot about health human resources. We're going to try to recruit as a community. We think that is one of the biggest assets we have. Is such a great community field. As a family physician, as a provider, as a nurse, how can we recruit as a community and not compete with each other as organizations within, but recruit together and ensure that people have their professional aspirations as a community, which I think is a huge attractive offer. And lastly, we are in the process of transforming the system, how we make decisions, how we integrate these services. And those are some of the key strategies. As a community, we have embraced that as a hospital. We make that our hospital strategy. We commit an incredible amount of time and energy in making the system, making the community healthier, above and beyond all the work, all the great work that happens that only a hospital does. The emergency departments, the operating rooms, the ICUs, that's our work. It'll always be our work. But this is exciting, integrated work to improve the health of our community. A couple of the examples here, and there's many, so I'm just going to highlight a few. For a very, very long time, this community has not had a walk-in clinic. What we've done is one better. Earlier this calendar year, late last year, early this year, we've opened up the care clinic. Not only is it access for those that don't have family doctors, it is episodic care. It's not just your bumps and bruises, but it will serve as a substitute for primary care until such time you can connect you to a primary care provider. So it gets you into the door. We recognize that there is a shortage of family doctors, nurse practitioners. So this clinic serves as a great bridge for people to get access to primary care services while they get into the system and they have future opportunities with care providers. And this is something we created through COVID funding, and we were creative and thoughtful about how we design the future. And we're now using this model, and we've been asked about it many times, how we can use this model as a forward-thinking, innovative approach to getting access to care. The other piece of work that we do as a hospital that is somewhat unique is we've become a home care provider. This happened several years ago. What we've seen is the growth. We call it Food Health at Home. So the hospital, in collaboration with our partners, we will take patients who are either on the verge of coming into hospital or those requiring discharge, but a complicated discharge. And we have a team of people coordinating care out of the hospital. So again, imagine if you are a family member in hospital for a long period of time, you want to be home, the transition is scary, it's complicated. The message from this team is the same people in the hospital that are looking after you on this particular unit will follow you home. 4 weeks behind with some supports to make that transition more effective. We found it successful greater than 90% of the time because people want to be home and they do better at home. So getting them home and supporting them there. And now we're looking at future growth of this, utilizing some of the home care providers that exist in some of the other agencies and having it. It doesn't replace all home care. I don't want to leave that impression, but it's a high complexity component that we think working. We want to spend the energy, that navigation energy for those that need it. And this is a population where we've done very well. These are people that otherwise would have been in hospital for a very long time. Our connections in the community extend well beyond care providers, and one of the more exciting connections we made formally is with Lakehead University. So that's myself and at the time, Vice President Moyer in person, President, sorry, thank you. Thank you for the correction. And they're just going through, it's Vice Chancellor, correct? Correct. That's right. Thank you. Okay. President and Vice Chancellor, Moyer in person, Dr. in person. Fantastic opportunity for us to work more closely with the academic side. We've signed this memorandum of understanding. We have many shared values, shared principles that we will continue to look for opportunities to work together. This commitment is about creating shared programming so we can have one of the exciting projects is entry-level positions into the hospital, into healthcare that serve as a starting point where people can then chart their path and more of a ladder of activity for those. As far as people want to take it from a support worker to a PSW, personal support worker, to a registered practical nurse, this is a career progression opportunity here. We have other opportunities we're providing, looking to provide care to students in a more effective way through the care clinic. So it's a new opportunity of bridging different strategies and bringing them together. We're also talking to the university because we think it's a great opportunity to plan the future of healthcare in our community, of how we can co-locate and co-develop a workforce going into the future. We're not going to be down with the health human resource challenge for many, many years to come. The best way we can recruit is to teach. And we see that already. And we think being more academic is a great way to do that.
Can I just make a suggestion?
Sure.
Does anyone- Have you ever thought of the opportunity, because it's new and upcoming, so they don't want to support professionals or workers, but they're professionals, people working with intellectual and disabilities. It is starting to get recognized across the country. That's my background, where I work. So I'm the advocate on that side of it too.
Okay.
So I'm advocating on both sides, but Lakehead does a great job right there here with you.
Yeah.
That's a whole area of newness, in my opinion, in the field that hasn't been really looked into. So it's maybe an opportunity.
Thank you for the advice we have for children. We have a regional program that has a wide depth of services
Adults.
for adults as well. Little different for us. However, we do recognize that in the population we serve,
Yeah,
in the Australian community, there is a need for that. So thank you for the suggestion.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
thank you for this.
Yeah, no problem. So this is emerging. We hope to hear more, see more of the opportunity. So part of our partners, part of our connection here is with our foundation. We've heard a couple of times the importance of our foundation and how we work together with fundraising. We have a few examples of some really successful events already this year. Charlie's run record-breaking over 1,000 participants. Lots of fun there in honor of perinatal death, in recognizing and educating and supporting families. And then on the left, we have our Soldiers Ride, first ever Soldiers Ride, exceeded all expectations. And very pleased, week 6, Perry.
Week 6.
Week 6, Perry Essler, who's the new president CEO of the foundation. So we welcome Perry to the team as well. So this was an opportunity to give you a snapshot on a variety of topics. There's so many more, but we want to give this opportunity a highlight to our community for those online, an opportunity to hear from us in a very informal setting. We do have an annual report that is just made available like very recently that we're really excited about. We've put a QR code on the screen so you can flash your camera directly to the website. For those on at home, you could probably do that more effectively as well. Please do check. We'll have it in our hospital website. It's a joint annual report both for the hospital and the foundation. And so many of these stories are in there. It highlights the details, the statistics, but it also gives us a sense of who we are and the work we've done over the last year. It's just another way that we're reaching out to our community and trying to share the word. So with that, we have 12 minutes before 6 o'clock. We need a commitment to get you on time. We have time for another few questions. If there are any, I will go to Heather. None on the screen. Okay. Yes.
I have one. Part of the problem of our hospital being overcrowded is that a good chunk of the beds are being used by people who shouldn't be in an acute care hospital.
Yes.
And we talk about a new hospital. Do we have any plans in Simcoe County to increase the number of long-term care beds? Because they're the real place to decant these people and make our hospital less stressful.
Okay, so thank you, fantastic question, and we want a hospital to be acute care. That's something that only we can do, and preserving that is of real importance to us. It's not that we want to move people out, but I don't think people want to stay in the acute care facility very long. This isn't the thing that we want to do. So what are our strategies? There's a couple with the redevelopment. One, when I talked about the plan, the redevelopment plan in a new hospital, a different site, part of that thinking, part of the evolution of that thinking, if you will, is the repurposing of this site in a way that maintains some services here, including transitional care. We have of our 8 buildings that we consist of, 6 are well beyond their current lifespan. The 7th is optional. The 8th, the community tower, is still a very viable building. We think by repurposing those as transitional care, we can create significant capacity, not only for us, but for the region. We can support in a setting that's more appropriate, in a setting that's more driven to outcomes that will get people home faster, because acute care isn't the place. We serve you meals, we don't get you out of bed. Those are all the things we need to be doing to get home, and that's the philosophy in what we call either rehab or convalescent care, is getting people home. So that's one element. We are also working with partners in the community. There is a push for more long-term care beds. It has been a bit challenging, if I'm honest, because we lost a few beds with the pandemic in terms of the appropriateness of how the infection control practices. Many have come back, but we still did lose a few beds, and we've lost the long-term care facility in past province as well. So they're in the process of revisiting that and building new, but that takes time as well. So we're in this awkward phase, and part of our strategy, part of our future hospital strategy is really come up with a comprehensive strategy that looks at not just the acute care, but creates options locally on this site that really enables the care of people in a better setting. So thanks for the question, Tony. Any other questions? Heather, checking there. Around the table, checking here. Okay. So with that, we have a drink, we have some cookies, we have a lot of cookies here. Please, hey, sorry for those online, we have no plans for you, but please do enjoy some s'mores if you can, as part of your own fireside chat. But I want to thank our presenters, Lindsay, Ligaya, for joining us today for this. Thank the participants here in the room, for those online, and thanks to the team for helping set this up. And again, it's one of the ways that we remain committed to engaging our community in different and unique ways. And part of that is sharing our story at the end of our annual general meeting. And that was our fireside chat today. So thank you all for your participation, and I wish you all a great evening. All right.